Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and welcome to the first episode of our annual mini-series on Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. All month leading up to Christmas, I'll be joined by a variety of guests to talk about a bunch of versions of the story, and today I'm joined by Rachel Wagner to talk about two versions, one we've talked about before and one that came out last year. Way back at the beginning of my channel, before I started podcasting, before I came up with the idea for every version ever, I wanted to review as many versions of A Christmas Carol as I could, and one of the first ones I did was one picked by Rachel, A Diva's Christmas Carol, a TV film made by VH1 starring Vanessa Williams, and to this day it's still one of my favorite modern TV versions of the story. Then last year I found out that VH1 was doing a remake called A New Diva's Christmas Carol, this time starring Ashanti. I really wanted to do this last year, but I did not have time to add a new episode when I found out about it, so I knew it was going to have to be one of the first ones I did in the next batch. So today Rachel and I are doing just that. But before we talk about the remake, since it's been 6 years since we talked about the original, I figured we should do a quick refresher and talk about this campy, creative take on an old classic. Well, I suppose let's talk about the original first. We already talked about it years ago in just a review video, which I think I've re-released as part of like a compilation podcast of a bunch of shorter reviews we'd done. But this still is one of my favorite made-for-TV, like faithful but not faithful adaptations. It's one of the best TV versions, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's clever, it's sweet, it's great.
Yeah, I really like there's a bunch of other ones that are like the gender swapped version, but trying to think of the different ones, I think this is the best of those as well. Vanessa Williams is great. Like, it takes itself seriously, but not too seriously. Like, it's still kind of goofy, and it's just fun.
Yeah, I mean, she is ideal for this role.
Mm-hmm.
This is the role she was born to play. And it gets that dynamic down just right of having some motivation for the Scrooge character. You understand why she is the way that she is, but it does enough things to kind of, like I said, be clever and differentiate itself from the other versions.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with Future, it's very, very good.
The way they did Ghost of Christmas Future is one of the most clever takes on that. I want to say character, but in this version, it's not a character.
Right.
It's such a clever twist on it that I really like it.
Yeah, I mean, it all worked out so perfect because this was, VH1 kind of a movie, and so to have behind the music, it was just a perfect combo.
Mm-hmm.
Really funny.
And the rest of the cast was mostly pretty good too. The Cratchit family, like Bob, was fine, but the wife and kid were like probably the least standouts as far as main characters go. But they weren't really meant to be. I think the main characters, they all were bigger names, like recognized. Like, I don't know who Chili is, but I know the name Chili, and she played Marley Jacob, which I thought was a great twist on the name.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I said it, but Ebenezer Scrooge is now Ebony Scrooge with Vanessa Williams.
Yeah, which I think is a pretty good name for a female Scrooge, Ebony.
Mm-hmm.
Smart.
And I like how, aside from Bob Cratchit, I think most of the people they changed the names, but they tried to do it in clever ways.
Yeah.
Especially like Marley Jacob. I had forgotten that, so I was looking up the name, and I was like, wait a minute, that's kind of genius.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like the fact that they really do give her some, like I said, some solid motivation. I mean, her being in the foster care system, being abused by her father, things like that. Pretty rough.
Yeah, they took ideas from the book. Like, it's not really explicit in the book as to what the issue between Scrooge and his father was, but they took that idea and made it into a believable real world scenario.
Yeah. All you know from the book is just that his father abandoned him at the school. And it's not until Fran, during the one Christmas, says she begs and begs for Ebenezer to be able to come home and that father, she says, father's a changed man. And so that, yeah, it's true. It's just like a few lines in the book, but in the fact that he's alone at school over the Christmas holidays, it's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But here, I mean, it's outright abuse, and it's made her bitter and angry.
And I liked that it's not just Scrooge that gets gender swapped. I think most of the characters are, except for Bob Cratchit. And here, instead of her sister Fan, it's now her brother Ronnie.
Mm-hmm.
And not that it matters, but was Fan older or younger than sister in the book? It's an older brother in this version.
A younger.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking, but I couldn't remember for sure.
Yeah, and it's hard to take a story that we know so well and try to give like a fresh spin on it. And I think they do here. They manage to. And plus, I mean, you have like really quality like singing and production values. The songs are good. All of that.
Yeah, and even though it's obviously a TV budget in was it late 90s or early 2000s? I don't remember if it's 99 or 2000, but
2000, yeah, this one came out.
Either way, it's obvious that it's not a huge budget, but I think they made the most of that budget, and nothing looks bad.
No.
You can tell that it's TV budget special effects, but I think they did good with what they had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think they did really well. I mean, I guess the biggest like flaw with the movie is probably Brian McNamara is the Cratchit character. His acting isn't the best. I think he's a little flat.
Compared to all the others, yeah, he was fine. I wasn't a big fan of his wife, and the kid was just a generic kid actor who wasn't amazing either. But they don't really need to be. They're mostly just plot devices anyway. So
I mean, like Tiny Tim is a tough in these movies because he is just this angel child basically, and it can be and it can end up being a little bit ableist too if they're not careful the way that it's handled. But yeah, I mean,
they can also end up making it too like saccharine sweet and turn you off of the character too, and this one did avoid that. Like I've had other Tiny Tims where it's like, okay, you're laying this on real thick, kid.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, did you like the Heartquake, the big hit song, Heartquake?
I kind of did, yeah. I'd forgotten
good.
about it, but I enjoyed it when I did my rewatch for this.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part, other than Vanessa Williams, was probably Kathy Griffin as the Ghost of Christmas Past.
Yeah, she gets the great. Best lines.
Yes.
She's funny. Yeah. About LA.
Yes.
It's like accurate. And I was just talking to a friend the other day, and we're like, if you lived in LA, then you could, because there was the Boy and the Heron, the new Miyazaki film. They were screening it there, and I'm like,
oh
yeah, but I'd have to live in LA.
From people I've seen online, like YouTubers I watch, nobody likes living there, even the ones who have to live there. Nobody likes it, so that doesn't seem like a good sell for anyone wanting to move there.
There's a good line from A Ghost of President about Bette Midler. Remember that, Bette Midler? I was like, no, not. And it just sings The Wind Beneath Our Wings. So, no. About the plastic surgery and about the stuff like that. Some funny lines.
I had forgotten that Ghost of Christmas Present was famous too. Again, another person I don't know, but I know the name, John Tyler from the band Duran Duran. So they went and got a lot of big music stars. Even her father, I didn't write it down. I don't remember who he's like a Canadian, somebody famous in Canada, I guess.
Oh yeah.
So they went and got a bunch of famous musicians for this movie.
Yeah, it's a good cast. It is.
Yeah,
it's a good cast.
And I liked the design of Marley. She has like some sort of pop star weird jumpsuit thing, but it's covered in chains. And I liked that they put the twist on the Jacob Marley dragging chains through the afterlife.
Yeah. Yeah, that was clever. That was good.
And one interesting twist that this one did was that the Bob Cratchit character was also the Belle character because they used to be a couple in the past.
Right. Yeah. Which, you'd almost think that the ending was going to be them getting together, but he's married. So,
Yeah, well, I was fine with that because like Scrooge doesn't need to have everything work out for her.
mhm.
Like I can see any other version that had this level of production making it so that everything worked out for Scrooge in the end. But I like that they're just friends and they stay
Yeah.
that way. You don't always get that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I just think it was a little surprising.
I don't think I expected it to happen, especially because, like you said, he's already married. So
Hmm. But typically in this kind of story, these
yeah.
kinds of movies, then they would. But it's not a romance story, so
Hmm.
it's fine.
I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure. Like I've seen so many
Hmm.
versions at this point. I can't remember, but I'm sure there's one or two where he does get back together with Belle in the end.
Uh, yeah. Well, I'm trying to remember if I think in the Susan Lucci one, I think maybe I don't know. It's been a while since I saw that one, but yeah, I mean, she is really bad in this one. I mean, they do not shy away from the Scrooginess of it. I mean, she's
Hmm.
doing this faux charity concert, taking everybody's money, making everybody work for the concert on Christmas. I mean, she's brutal.
Well, she technically is giving it to charity because she made it explicit that she's doing this so that she can have the photo op giving the money. She wants to be there giving the charity this giant check. So it's not like she's taking all the money for herself, but she's still brutal to everyone who is working with her.
Yeah, yeah. Wasn't she? I thought she was siphoning some of it off, though.
Her manager was her money guy. Like he gets
Oh,
arrested in
that's
the
right.
end. Like the
Mm,
FBI shows up.
that's right. That's right. That's right.
She was definitely brutal on a personal level, but one thing I did appreciate was that she wasn't like evil. Like she was not a nice person at all, but she wasn't like straight up evil. Like not to get too ahead, but I kind of felt like the one in the new Diva's Christmas character, Carol, was kind of evil.
Yeah, That's true. She's brutal. But in that one, her backstory is even worse than. I mean, her mother. We'll talk about it, but her mother is
Hmm.
uh, brutal in that one. I was watching it where he was like, "Oh my gosh, wow, no
Yeah,
wonder."
in prep for this, I watched the new one first because I had never seen it. And then I went back to the old one. And I was kind of surprised going from the new one to the old one that I had so much more fun with the old one. Partly because of how, I guess, less evil Vanessa Williams
Hmm.
is.
Yeah,
Like, I kind of hated the new Diva for most of the movie. And when I went back to Vanessa Williams, I was like, okay, she's nasty, but she's fun, and I really
yeah.
like her.
I enjoyed the new one. I thought it was fun, but yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, well, we can move on to talking about the new one since we're already there. But I liked a lot of things about the new one, but I did not like it as much as the old one at all. And I don't, if I was to go back and rewatch one, I think I would choose the old one over the new one very quickly.
Well,
And part of
yeah,
that
I
was
mean,
because she wasn't that likable for most of it. She had glimpses of likability at times, but yeah, she kind of rubbed me the wrong way, especially after she took her mother's words to heart in the middle of the movie too quickly and easily and just turned evil.
well, I mean, I wasn't really expecting it to be as good as the original. I did not have that expectation at all. So, I mean, I guess my perspective was it wasn't a train wreck, so that's a win, like it wasn't.
Low
I
bars help.
Yeah, I guess it's true. But I do think that I like Ashante. I think she has just enough of a warmth about her that it wasn't quite as I didn't wasn't quite as turned off as you were. But I liked the three ladies so much. They were
Yeah.
awesome. They were so fun. And so that was kind of enough for me to have a good time with it. It wasn't like I would always pick the original, but I knew that going into it.
Hmm.
There was never going to be a chance where this was going to be better than the original. But when you have Vivica A. Fox, Robin Givens, and Eva Marcel as these ghosts, it's pretty hard not to have a fun time. And they really did. Her mother is the worst in this. I was just like, oh
Yeah,
my
it was weird.
gosh.
I felt like even though her mother's abusiveness is more emotional abuse, I
Uh,
felt like she was more evil than the physically abusive father.
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, she's just brutal. Literally just finished watching it again because I hadn't seen it since last year, and like, man, just basically tells her daughter on a regular basis that she's worthless. And
Hmm.
so yeah, you're gonna become pretty. It's gonna be pretty hard not to become bitter when you have that kind of abusive childhood.
Hmm.
So that I think that worked pretty well. The music I think was good. I don't think that I mean I think Ashante is actually I've she's now done like 3 or 4 of these Christmas movies, and I do like her presence on screen. I think she is decent for this kind of role for like a not trained actress. But I mean, she's not going to compare with Vanessa Williams, who was like born to play a diva. Like I mean,
Yeah.
it's not going to be the same.
I think the thing that I probably just internalized too much her performance in the opening scene, where she's basically like an evil Karen,
Uh huh.
and that must have just stuck with me through the whole movie because she just rubbed me the wrong way.
Mm. She is definitely a Scrooge. There's no question about it.
Oh, definitely, yeah. When you had the flashbacks to before she turned evil, I liked her then. But then you have the scene where she goes to visit her mother, and then her mother tells her how she needs to be more hard. And then it was just like she flipped on a dime and turned evil right after that, and was like, really? But then at
Mm.
the end, another thing that kind of annoyed me was she flipped on a dime again at the end. It seemed like there wasn't much lead up to her becoming good again. She just was evil until she wasn't.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that the real transition was seeing her
Yes,
future self all alone singing in the bar, and
sadly.
nobody cares. And she's basically like a one-hit wonder. There's this one song, Shine,
That was
that
another thing that kind of got old. I was over that song by the end.
so I think seeing her like that was the tipping point, as opposed to in Diva's Christmas Carol, like it is more about the people in her life and
Hmm.
about more than just the behind the music.
It's a little more gradual. Yeah,
There's more to it than that.
yeah. But I thought it was interesting too that they almost just take notes from A Christmas Carol. This wasn't like a straight adaptation
Mm-hmm.
because the three spirits are not the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future. They're the spirits of truth, compassion, and service, which was interesting. I'm not sure. Like, I thought they were supposed to be goddesses for a while. Like, I kept thinking of them as goddesses in my head, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
but why are they goddesses? Part of that also was that the scene with the burning Christmas tree. It's like, is this supposed to be like the burning bush in the Bible?
I
And
never thought of that.
that was another, for lack of a better term, goddess whose name was like Rathar or something. It was an interesting twist on the story, and I did appreciate that they went and did their own thing, even though I like that I like seeing twists on the things. This was like they twisted and went in a whole different direction. And it was a good enough twist that like I said, the main flaw I had was that I didn't like Aphrodite. We haven't said her name yet, Aphrodite instead of Scrooge. I just didn't really like her. Aside from when she was good in the flashbacks, she just kind of annoyed me.
I mean, yeah, I mean, her mom at one point says she's a medium pretty girl who wrote a decent song.
Mm-hmm. No, her
That's
mom was
brutal,
awful.
brutal. And so, yeah, I mean, I was okay with Ashante.
She's not a bad
Eh,
actress. It
yeah,
had nothing to do with her specifically. It was the way the character was written that.
yeah. I mean,
Like,
she's supposed to be Scrooge, and so,
yeah,
but she's not as deliciously evil as Vanessa Williams.
yeah. I just really like Vanessa Williams. I think I was
Vanessa
just
Williams is
comparing her too
just,
much, maybe.
yeah, perfect as this, role. So,
hmm I think my favorite character in this was probably the person in the Bob Cratchit role, Femi, who
hmm
I wasn't 100% sure, was that supposed to be her sister? Because she was in the flashback too, but they never referred to each other as sisters. I was kind of confused about
I
that.
think it was her best friend.
Okay.
Yeah,
But she was probably my favorite character from the movie. She just was the
yeah.
most real person in this whole thing.
I think the divas were my favorite. The
The
spirits, they
spirits,
were
yeah.
they were really fun. I thought.
My favorite of those probably was Zero. She was just weird, and I like weird characters.
Yeah.
Like the first thing she wants to do when she meets her is lick her.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to get me with Vivica Fox. She's just
She
so
was
fun.
great, yeah.
She's
The
really, really
the
funny.
Sarah, or I don't, if that's her, I can't remember how to pronounce it. I wrote it down. I think the one who spoke first, I think the middle
hmm
one, I
Yeah.
liked her too. She seemed like the nicest one, the least weird. They were all good. And actually, I don't know that I know who Vivica A. Fox is, but Robin Gibbons and Ava Marcel, I don't think I've seen them in anything. So I wasn't sure what to expect with them, but they ended up being some of my favorite characters from this.
Yeah, they were really, really fun. Yeah, I mean, Vivica Fox, legend. Yeah, Robin Givens, I know I've seen her in a bunch of stuff.
The name sounded familiar, but I scrolled through her IMDb and nothing jumped out at me, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it was more like television, things like that.
Okay. But you do have there are not really one-to-one comparisons with most of the characters in the story, but you do have somebody in the Belle role, her boyfriend Michael, whose restaurant she helped fund. And that was another thing that kind of annoyed me. He forgave her way too quickly at the end. But oh well, it's a fantasy.
Yeah.
And then I didn't catch it right away, but because after I watched it the first time, I was like looking up different things online, and I saw someone refer to the character like in the beginning. Aphrodite is like the host, or not a host. She's a judge on a reality show, and she takes on a mentorship role to this other singer. And this other singer, Brianna, her girlfriend was like in an accident or something, and it didn't click until I read it later. Someone was calling her girlfriend the Tiny Tim character. And I was like, oh, that's kind of right.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was pretty effective.
I liked the girlfriend more than the singer, Brianna. Like Brianna, she was just, I don't know, she didn't seem real enough. The girlfriend seemed more real than the singer.
Mm.
But I'd never seen either of them in anything else, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have either, but I thought it was a pretty sweet little relationship for, a movie like this. I was just looking at their IMDb.
They're
Yeah,
the both. I don't think either of them had very long IMDb's. I
no,
tried to look up everybody, and most of the people I didn't recognize.
right.
Like I knew who Ashanti was. I didn't recognize her at first. Like I haven't seen her in anything recently, but she looked vaguely familiar. But when I was watching it, I was multitasking, doing something else. Like I was sorting Lego, so like my hands were full. So after I looked her up, I was like, oh wait a minute, she was Dorothy in Muppets Wizard of Oz.
Which is terrible. Poor Shantae.
I mean, I loved that back in the day. I need to watch it again and
Oh,
see how it holds up. But like I remember back when I first watched Muppets Wizard of Oz, I was like, this is more faithful to the book than the original one from the 1930s. But that
yeah,
was back
it's
when I was very much a stickler for being book accurate, and I thought it was
mm,
weird that the Muppets were more book accurate than the 1930s one.
that's funny. Yeah, it's the worst Muppets property ever made, in
It
my
probably
opinion.
is, even though I remember liking it. Thinking back, I'm sure that it's not as good as anything else that's come before or since. Well, definitely before, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Shanti has a little Christmas movie for Lifetime called A Christmas Winter Song, that I remember enjoying, that I thought was sweet. that she has a friendship with an older man who's a jazz singer.
Mm.
Can't remember everything about it, but I remember just thinking it was sweet. So
He seems like somebody who would like doing stuff like this, like Christmas movies.
yeah. So I mean, I guess yeah, low expectations I get maybe helped with this. But I really did love the Three Spirits. I thought they were super fun. And so I left. It wasn't in like my favorite of the year or anything like that, but I left being like, that was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I didn't dislike the movie. I think I was just comparing it too much to the original, and the so I didn't exactly like it as much as the original.
No.
But I like the different things that they did with it, especially the spirits. Like even though they weren't Christmas past, present, and future, I liked how they were different and weird. And I like things that are different and weird.
Yeah. Me too. So I think considering what they had to work with, it was pretty fun. And I mean VH1 had a pretty strong year last year where what's it called? Just one sec. So they had this and they had one last year called All I Didn't Want for Christmas. And
that's a good title.
Yeah. With Gabby Sidibe, and it was really funny and very snarky. And so if you're like tired of the, she basically writes a letter to Santa about all of the things she hates about everything, and she kind of gets her letter comes true, and it's really fun. Loretta Devine plays her mom, who's like obsessed with Christmas, and she at one point is wearing this outfit with like all silver and all like tinsel, and she looks crazy, and it was so funny on Twitter. So I was like, oh, nobody would ever wear that. That's a ridiculous outfit. I'm like, it's supposed to be. It's a comedy. What's wrong with you? It's supposed to be funny. People don't get a joke. And it also has Andrew Buchel, who is a current favorite of mine. I just love him. He's so good. And so it's they like so between those two, they had a pretty good offering last year, VH1.
Yeah, they're not somebody I would think of for Christmas movies, but
yeah, me either.
Apparently they'd make them because we're talking about two of them.
Yeah. So I think if people are curious, it's always fun to see all the different versions. I mean, it's what you do for your podcast, but it's fun to see different people's take on the same story, and to see people trying to do new things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're a fan of A Christmas Carol and you want something different, definitely go for a Diva's Christmas Carol. And if you're still wanting more, then go for a new Diva's Christmas Carol as well, because it's its own thing. It's not a straight up remake of the original. So
yeah.
Okay, well, I think that will be all for this episode. I'm glad you introduced me to the original, because I don't think I mean I might have found it eventually, but it really is one of my favorite of the TV versions that I've seen. Like, yeah, it's not the best version of A Christmas Carol, but as far as TV movies go, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, if I'm going for the non-traditional interpretation, non-traditional take, then it's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Really fun. Especially the future. It's just so creative and funny.
Yeah. I've never seen a different version do a music video behind the scenes documentary for the Ghost of Christmas Future.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. It's always fun to talk about these movies.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. It's always nice to find new things to talk about. There's still a lot of versions to go, but
and there's a new version on Up TV this season called We're Scrooged with Andrew Buchel. And that's really fun. And its take is that it's about a couple, both people in the relationship getting the Scrooge treatment, getting the angels and everything. So I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it.
We'll probably have to talk about that one at some point in the future too. That sounds like an interesting take on the story.
Yeah, I thought it was clever. It was fun. And the takes on the ghosts I thought were fun too. So
okay, well, until next time, do you want to let people know where they can find you if they want more from you?
Yeah, so you can find me at Hallmarkies Podcast, talking all the new Christmas movies and much more. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews. Check that out.
Okay, well, we will see you again next time.
All right.
Thanks for listening to Every Version Ever. If you like what you've heard, make sure to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform or to our YouTube channel. Make sure to follow my co-hosts as well, and if you want more content from us, check out one of the other podcasts in the iHeart Movies Podcast Network, or check out my brand new Patreon. My link tree, as well as any other relevant links, will be in the description. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.